In the early hours of January 3rd, 2026, the world witnessed something unprecedented in modern history. American Delta Force soldiers descended on Venezuela's capital to capture a sitting president. But to understand this moment, we must go back to where it all began. Nicolás Maduro Moros was born on November 23, 1962, into a working-class family in Caracas, in a Venezuela riding high on oil wealth. Young Nicolás seemed destined for an ordinary life. At age 24, Maduro traveled to Cuba for ideological training. When he returned, he took a job driving buses for the Caracas metro system. But this was no ordinary bus driver. Within the transit union, Maduro proved himself a natural organizer, rallying workers and articulating their grievances. In 1992, everything changed. A young army officer named Hugo Chavez led a failed coup against Venezuela's government. While Chavez was imprisoned, Nicolás Maduro became one of his most vocal supporters. During this time, Maduro met Celia Flores, a lawyer defending Chavez. In 1998, Hugo Chavez was elected president, promising a socialist revolution he called Chavismo. The former bus driver was about to begin his unlikely rise. For the next 15 years, Maduro became Chavez's most loyal lieutenant. He was elected to the National Assembly in 2000. By 2006, he was foreign minister. As foreign minister, Maduro traveled the world building alliances with Cuba, Iran, Russia, and China, anyone who opposed American influence. Critics mocked Maduro's working-class background and lack of formal education. They portrayed him as merely a puppet repeating Chavez's rhetoric. By 2012, Chavez was dying of cancer. In December, Chavez made a stunning announcement. My firm opinion is that you elect Nicolás Maduro as president. On March 5, 2013, Hugo Chavez died. Nicolás Maduro became president. In the special election of April 2013, Maduro won, barely, by just 1.5%. The opposition claimed fraud, but Maduro was sworn in. The bus driver was now president. But there was a gaping chasm between his appeal and Chavez's legendary charisma. What followed was one of the most spectacular economic collapses in modern history. Venezuela, once South America's wealthiest nation, descended into chaos. Empty supermarket shelves. People searching through garbage for food. From 2013 to 2020, Venezuela's economy shrank by 80%. Hyperinflation reached 130,000% in 2018. The minimum wage fell to just $3.60 per month. A basic food basket cost $500, more than 100 times the minimum wage. Hospitals ran out of medicine. Children died of malnutrition. Crime spiraled out of control. And Maduro's response? Brutal repression. In 2014 and again in 2017, massive protests erupted. Security forces and pro-government armed groups responded with brutal force. Hundreds died. Human rights organizations documented torture, arbitrary arrests, and killings. The Maduro government systematically violated human rights. As the crisis deepened, Venezuelans began to flee. First in thousands, then millions. By 2025, nearly 8 million had left, one of the largest refugee crises in the world. Venezuelan families scattered across Colombia, Chile, Peru, the United States. Mothers separated from children. Dreams shattered. Lives destroyed. Meanwhile, Maduro blamed everyone but himself. He claimed Venezuela was victim of an economic war by the United States. He called his opponents fascist demons. In 2018, he was re-elected in a vote the international community condemned as fraudulent. Maduro's grip on power seemed unshakable. In January 2019, opposition leader Juan Guaido declared himself interim president, recognized by over 50 countries. For a moment, it seemed Maduro might fall. But Maduro held on, backed by the military, Cuba, Russia, and China. The standoff continued for years, with Venezuela torn between two presidents. By 2024, a new opposition leader had emerged. Maria Corina Machado won the opposition primary with overwhelming support. But Maduro's government banned her from running. Instead, the opposition nominated Edmundo González Urrutia. The campaign was marked by arrests, intimidation, and restrictions. But on July 28th, Venezuelans voted in massive numbers. That night, Venezuela's Electoral Council declared Maduro the winner with 51%. But the opposition had collected vote tabulations from over 80% of polling stations. They published them online. The results were clear. González had won by more than 2-1. This wasn't just fraud. This was brazen theft. Protests erupted across Venezuela. Maduro's response was swift and brutal. In Operation Knock Knock, security forces arrested over 1,900 people, including 42 teenagers. At least 23 protesters and bystanders were killed. The repression was systematic, calculated, ruthless. On January 10, 2025, Maduro was inaugurated for a third term. He compared himself to the biblical David fighting Goliath. "I come from the people," he declared. But his grip on power was weakening. In October 2025, Maria Corina Machado was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, bringing international attention to Venezuela's plight. And in Washington, a new administration was preparing to act. Throughout 2025, the Trump administration built military forces in the Caribbean. There were strikes on alleged drug trafficking boats, a CIA drone strike in December. The pressure was mounting, but few imagined what was coming. Shortly after 3 a.m. on January 3, 2026, American military aircraft swept over Caracas. Explosions rocked the city. Venezuela's air defenses were overwhelmed. At Fort Tuna military installation, Delta Force soldiers stormed Nicolás Maduro's home. This was an extraordinarily complex operation. You had to penetrate Venezuelan airspace, suppress air defenses, insert special operations forces, locate the target, and extract, all without triggering wider conflict. According to U.S. officials, the operation had been months in the making. CIA operatives had been inside Venezuela since August, tracking Maduro's movements. And someone inside his government was helping them. Hours later, President Trump appeared at Mar-a-Lago with a stunning announcement. The United States has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela. Nicolás Maduro and his wife have been captured and flown out of the country. Maduro and his wife Cilia Flores were transported to the USS Iwo Jima, then flown to New York to face narco-terrorism charges. The Operation Trump called a success was condemned by Russia, China, Iran, and several Latin American governments as a violation of international law. In Venezuela, the reaction was mixed. Some celebrated in the streets. Others worried about what came next. The Supreme Court ordered Vice President Delcy Rodriguez to assume power. But President Trump had other ideas. "We are going to run the country," he declared. "This is unprecedented." A U.S. president essentially saying America will administer Venezuela. The legal questions are staggering. The practical challenge is immense. As Venezuela entered its second day without Maduro, the future remained deeply uncertain. Maria Corina Machado called for Edmundo González to be installed as legitimate president. But Trump expressed doubts about Machado's ability to lead. Meanwhile, hardline Chavistas remained in key positions. Could they be trusted to lead Venezuela toward democracy? You can capture a dictator in a night. But building democracy? That takes years, maybe decades. And it requires Venezuelans themselves to shape their future. For the 8 million Venezuelan refugees scattered across the world, the news brought hope mixed with uncertainty. Would they finally be able to return home? I want to believe this is the beginning of change. But we've been disappointed so many times. My family has been destroyed by this regime. I just want to go home. As for Nicolás Maduro, the former bus driver who became president, he awaited trial in a Brooklyn detention center, charged with narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. From the heights of power to a jail cell. From presidential palace to federal prison. A dramatic end to an unlikely journey. The story of Nicolás Maduro is the story of Venezuela itself, a nation rich in resources but broken by authoritarianism and mismanagement. A nation that inspired millions with promises of revolution, only to drive them into exile. A nation still searching for the democracy it was promised. Whether his capture marks the beginning of Venezuela's recovery or a new chapter of instability, only time will tell. What is certain is that for Venezuelans, the dream of democracy, The dream Hugo Chavez promised and Nicolás Maduro betrayed remains unfulfilled. The question now is, will America's unprecedented intervention finally help achieve it? Or will it create new problems as complex as those it sought to solve? As of January 4th, 2026, Venezuela's political future remains uncertain. Nicolás Maduro faces federal charges in New York. His arraignment is scheduled for January 6th, 2026. The fall of Maduro, the rise of uncertainty, the hope for a better Venezuela.